so they can feel like the big man and they're fucking pussies. Banking issues, insurance issues. You can't just fucking join the mafia. Like, what's up guys? I got a video for you today, and what I'm going to cover is, it's going to be a concept that guys in general, I think guys do need a group, they need a tribe, they need somewhere that they can network together, they need somewhere that they can learn from each other, much like the days of old. So I do think groups and tribes and, you know, together that you guys have a brotherhood or something like that. Maybe if it's in your small community, you guys have a thing where you guys get together and exchange knowledge and support each other and back each other up if something happens. I understand that completely, but I see some of the younger guys in the States, guys in Oz, and they think that a tribe or something like that means to join a gang or a group or something that, you know, is more on the criminal side of things, you know, that's involved in illicit activities. It's very different from a mafia. A mafia often is family based. It's vetted. You can't just fucking join the mafia. Like, it's not something that you can just do. You can't just decide one day to say that I'm going to join X family, like their group or something like that, their actual mafia. You can't do that. And they recruit family based, yes, but there's still tests and there's still requirements and things like that. They still go through a vetting process. And what I've found in a lot of the gangs, specifically in Oz and things like that, the groups, there's no fucking vetting process. Like, they just let anyone join. Crackheads, fucking junkies, anyone that they want to throw into the mixer, like into the fucking mincer, they just put them through there. Anyone can join. Because the difference between a mafia or something like that, they're actually businessmen. Like, they know how to fucking do things in the city. Like, they're running several groups. They're often running large businesses that are legitimate as well. They're not just involved in organised crime. Like, that's just it's not their only fucking business. So I know that this can tread on people's fucking upset people. You know, it can upset people and people can fucking get their feelings hurt. But that's life. Like, that's the game. You know, Australia itself, it has a massive idolisation of bikie culture. I've said that before, and the gangs there. It has it in the media, like the Daily Mail and things like that. They're pushed to promote that a lot of the guys in that scene are making a lot of money that they're not actually fucking making. You know, they push that a lot of the guys are really wealthy, living these extravagant lives. They push it so that people want to emulate, and then they use it to push the tighter gang laws and things like that they're using on civilians. You know, they pushed, back in my time, they were pushing a lot of VLAD. I got pushed and charged under VLAD, the gang fucking laws, and I wasn't even in a gang. So they should try to charge you by being an associate. And an associate, it's very hard to prove that you're not an associate. You know, it's a very bullshit field. But they push to the civilians so that they think that when the government passes all of these laws to control the bikies, that it was needed. But actually a lot of it is like an overstep from the government. They've pushed a lot of these characters to make them seem really fucking big, like global, and they're fucking not. Like, it's not really a thing outside of the bubble of Oz. You know, that's very small in the global scheme of things. And the worst thing that I see is I see a lot of young guys go down that path. You know, I have friends that are, you know, some are high up in that sort of field, and they would say to guys, like, you have to join for the right reasons. It's not something that you just fucking do. It's not just a decision that you make that you're bored and now you're going to go down that path. A lot of it, you have to be groomed into it. Like, you have to have family and things like that, or you have to have, you know, connections to people that are important. Otherwise, you're just going to be a pawn that just gets pushed out and, like, fucks your whole life up. You know, you'll end up doing a ton of jail time. You know, I would see it in prison at Woodford and things like that. Some of the groups are just recruiting people that are fucking retards in that field, like people that are just there's zero vetting. Like, a guy will be on fucking Subbutech in the corner, and then people will just be like, this is the guy, like, we can recruit and push him through. Because a lot of it now in that sort of field, it's much like happened in Iraq and Afghanistan and things like that during the war. They've taken out a lot of the leadership. The leadership get put on no association orders, so they can't actually liaise with the group itself and run things. So now it becomes like, you know, instead of 5 guys at the top, there's fucking like 5,000, and there's no one in charge. There's no quality control either. There's no, like, you know, guy who is the man that's running a lot of things. It's like the war in Ukraine. There's Russia itself, but then they fracture out and they don't have comms. Like they don't have communications and things like that, so the civilians get hurt more than they normally would. So that's kind of what's happened. There's no quality control. There's no they're not really looking after their people either. A lot of it is just, people think that they're going to join and have access to all of this money and things like that, but a lot of the money is only made for the boss. It's all made on memberships. Like people don't realize it's essentially like a pyramid scheme itself. It's not like, people think that they're just going to join and have access to all of this money. And that's what happens with those sort of things, like the pyramid scheme concept itself. People see the boss and see other guys and things like that flexing online with membership money. So it is actually legitimate, so the police can't take it off him. And then they think that that person got that from like a life of crime. But really it's just from membership. It's not something that you can fucking emulate unless you want to become the boss. And that's why so many people are gunning for the boss, because that's the fucking position that actually makes money. Below that, very little. So it's kind of like a scam industry, like it's a scam area. It's not something you join to get rich. They were originally joined that people wanted the brotherhood and camaraderie and things like that. And now it's like essentially pushed out, like the drugs and stuff like that. There's no quality control. Like, 20 or 30 years ago, you couldn't just be a fucking needle fucking head, like a pill head or something, and be in that sort of a field. But now the quality control's gone to fucking complete dog shit. So there's people in there that shouldn't be in there. And like it's happened from the government end. They fucked the leadership and things like that, so they can't run their own men. They can't manage the quality, and they can't have a big say, the old schoolers. So now it's kind of gone to shit, because if it's not centralized control entity, like there's no leadership that can just say, I'm going to fucking run everything. That's the way that it's meant to be. So instead of that, it's just a heap of guys fighting, like there's a heap of infighting and skirmishes and things like that for power, instead of, respecting that there is a leader because of all these gang laws and things like that. So a lot of it, and it's the same in the US and things like that, it's not a very viable path to go down. Guys, when they're specifically younger, they think that it's fucking glamorized. I'm this guy now. I woke up this morning and now I'm joining this group. I guess it shouldn't fucking be that easy. Like, it should be a quality control thing. Like, it's not for fucking everyone. The only reason it's now for everyone is because they're making money on memberships. Like, that's their fucking business model. So it makes money to keep as many members there as possible and always be churning through them, because many are getting churned and burned. So yeah, that's the thing for today. I know that it's probably a bit different than what a lot of shit that people get fed. A lot of the stuff, like people think that they're joining this specific groups and things like that, and they're going to make all of this money, have access to all of this shit, and a lot of them will just end up doing a lot of jail time, doing a bunch of fucking dumb stuff like crap, like robbing people and doing garbage, like shit crime, one-off scams and crap, instead of actually building something that's sustainable. In my day, people would avoid them. Like, people didn't want shit to do with them because it's always fucking, they include drama. And that was around the time of VLAD. To be associated with them, you would be looking at 10 years. You need to do anything with any of those groups, you would get a 10-year smack, like on top. VLAD, you have to do 80% of your time. It's like trafficking. Trafficking's 80% as well. So yeah, it's an unsustainable business model. One, it's not something that guys should want to emulate. Guys should be looking to walk down. It's a thing that you have to be groomed into, like it's a family thing. Mafias overseas and things like that, like even around here, it's not fucking you just join. That's crazy. Like, that's a crazy concept that they just, there's an alcoholic on the street, let's just chuck him in. No, because he's a reflection on the group. There's going to be fucking problems. If they know that if they recruit a bunch of fucking like unvetted people that are untrained and things like that, they'll fuck up, and it will reflect on the group itself. And then if they're doing a lot of dumb shit, their government will crack down on them as well, because they have to. That's what happened in Australia as well. A lot of sloppy stuff happened, and then the government had an excuse to fuck them over. They've been waiting for a long time, and they got the sloppiness that they wanted, because the drugs ran through the fucking groups, like mafias and things like that. Doing drugs, like, that's keeping extremely fucking hidden. It's not a thing that you just run around and talk about doing that shit, because that's a fucking like integrity issue. You know, it's the saying like, use a bitch, don't let a bitch use you. That's the thing. Like, you know, that's has its purpose. They sell it, they're not meant to take it. And if they do, they're fucking very hidden and they're smart about it. They're not just pillheads, or they're not fucking shooting up subby or fucking gear. Like, they're not gearheads. No one's taking ice in any of those fucking groups. But in Oz, it's a mess like that. You know, a lot of it, guys just throw their whole life away in that specific niche, like that area. Guys think that it's a career. They don't look around and see the guys in that area. I know so fucking many that are in jail for a long time, like 5-10 years plus, and they just keep going back because it's all they know. You know, a lot of them have it's respectable that they have such a like loyalty to that sort of group and things like that. But I've seen it where guys who I've known were in prison for something. You know, they got told you have to do X or Y, and then the groups and things like that are fucking the guy's girl. Like, they're just hitting on the guy's girl, or like, you know, they don't send him in any money. They don't give a fuck. Like, he doesn't mean fuck all. It's just a pawn that got pushed like on the chessboard, pushed off the cliff. And then there's more pawns because people fucking don't understand the Daily Mail and groups like that glamorize it. So then they think, oh, I'm going to get all these girls, I'm going to get all of this shit. And it's a fucking fraudulent field. Like, that's bullshit. Like, yeah, you might get a few like strippers and bottle hoes and things like that. That's a real thing. But you could get all of that anyway without being associated with that sort of group. Like, if you actually wanted to just do crime, like that was the field, you wanted to sell things or something, you can still get access to all of that. You don't need to be in a group that essentially lumps you in with everyone else and also adds you to a ton of jail time. You know, you get smashed on a VLAT or any of the other shit that they've run through. You know, as soon as they say that this person's associated with that group, there's a lot of fucking scrutiny. And a lot of people who are doing things don't want to be associated with that because they know that the laws are very different. And the funding and things like that, the funding is fucking wild. You know, like Maxima or Raptor or things like that, they have a lot of funding and they've got a lot of specialist police and there's a lot of snitches and things like that. They've done a lot of fucking work there. Like, you know, they've built the database out. A lot of guys don't realise that if they move into that field, they're just moving off a fucking cliff. Doesn't matter if you don't die. It doesn't matter if you don't get injured. It doesn't matter in that. It's like it fucks your life up. It fucks the life up of people around you that care about you. I see some guys do it and they're a fucking father and then they have kids and things like that and they think that it's not going to reflect on them forever. They have a son and then the son's obligated to do the same thing. You know, he gets the name and he thinks, oh, that's what my dad did, so now I have to do it. And then ends up in jail for fucking chunks of his life. You know, there's nothing glamorous about sitting in prison. The only person who says it's glamorous is the person who keeps going back. He's only going back because he can't control himself. You know, it's not smart to just be a bumping in and out of jail because it starts small. Maybe you go in for 6-12 months and then you go in for years, like 2-3 years. And then the next time you're in for like 5 years and then you just 3 or 4 or 5 years back to back to back to back. And your whole life you're always reporting to the police or on bail or on parole, all this other crap. You know, it's like a lot of guys in that niche, they want to be a soldier so bad, but they're not fucking like fighting in, just join the army or something like that. Like if you want to be a soldier, like be a real fucking soldier and be trained, like be a trained person that can do shit. Not like, you know, some commando running around and a lot of them hurting civilians and crap now. You know, like that's not anything beyond parasite behavior. You know, that's not like build something then and then do shit. Like build something that's sustainable for the group and that everyone can win. Don't just extract from the general public. You know, that's crap, that's unsustainable. That's part of why they have such a bad name. In the old days, a lot of the guys would do charity things and things like that. They actually built their reputation up. A lot of the newer guys just there to extract, just there to shit the world up. And then they wonder why everyone fucking doesn't like them now. Like they used to have good PR and things like that, because a lot of them, it was just a group, like a men's group. You know, they were doing things and then it become more like a group of fucking, like drug group, shit like that. Like people take drugs and do shit and cause chaos. That's fucking dumb. Like that's an unsustainable model. Just gave an excuse for the government to crack down on them. So now, yeah, that's my take. I know that guys look in, I get guys message me and things like that, and they think that that's a lifestyle that they should emulate. So it's my responsibility, having seen so fucking many of them in prison and known so fucking many of them. And I know so many of them that can't even go back to Australia because they're fucking, like, they have issues there. I know so many that had to leave with fucking nothing. They left, I know several that live in countries that I'm not going to mention, but far away from Australia, that they have to leave with fucking nothing. I know 2 that had kids and shit there, and they still haven't even been able to reach out to their kids. Because if they reach out to their kids, there's a good chance that the government or the police will locate them and then fuck them over in that country. Understand that you need a fucking lot of money, or you need to be very lucky, because there's not many countries in the world that won't extradite you now. Like, a lot of guys think that if they're running around to certain countries, things like that, the only countries that will take you, a lot will extort you. A lot will fucking just know that you're wanted, and then the cops will just come around and be like, pay me or we're going to fucking deport you back to prison. Like, we're going to corroborate. Like, we're going to cooperate with the government of Oz to fuck you over. A lot of countries, if you're a big enough name, will do prisoner exchange to fuck you over. The embassy will contact the prison and they'll say that they'll give one of theirs, a diplomat or something, or they'll punish a diplomat locally if they don't get you out, like if they don't send you over, and they will. A lot of this, you can just hide in certain countries. That's a fucking myth. Like, you better have a fuckload of money, and you better know a lot of people, or you better be extremely lucky. If you do enough shit, and the thing with the crimes and things there, they have a massive agenda against it now. Even if you do something small, they blow it out of proportion. And a lot of the guys act up to it because a lot of the guys in that area are insecure. Like, that's why they join those sort of things. So then they see their name in the paper and shit like that. And instead of just sitting back and being like, fuck, this is getting too big. Like, I'm not even this guy. They're pretty much marking me that I'm fucking Scarface. They lean into it. And then when they get hit, they were selling like fuck all. But then they get done for a massive fucking crime that they didn't even do. Because they got painted as a picture, and instead of reeling it in, they just kept going. So, yeah, it's a fucking bad way to blow your whole life up. And it's my responsibility to jump on here and say to guys, they should want to do better. It's not a sustainable model. A lot of guys in that area, in the old, it was different. It's very different now. The whole culture of Australia and things like that has changed since ICE went through. When I was selling drugs and stuff like that back then, I saw that when it first sort of hit, the massive wave of it, I remember people telling me that it was around and things like that. But the actual shard, once it hit the big cities, people changed. That's over 10 years ago. People have changed since then. Methamphetamine, especially when you smoke it, and worse again when you shoot it up, changes people. Australia itself has a big meth problem. In those sort of areas too, it has a big meth problem. Because a lot of guys think that, with coke and things like that even, it's an expensive product. Whereas guys think that they can just take a couple of points of fucking gear and get the same outcome. But one's much worse on your brain than the other. One is something that you take and it vanishes after an hour or a couple of hours. It's mostly out of your system. The other can last a very fucking long time, and it just keeps compounding because you keep using it day after day. So, and it's cheap. They'll stop guys get done for a kilo of ice or something like that. And the Mail or something like that will say how they got done with $500K or $1 million worth of gear because they break it down to points or less. And that's how they paint people as fucking Scarface, even when they're doing not a lot. So that's just one way that misinformation, they put them in a bad spot, and then they go to court, and then that's the narrative that's been pushed. The other person doesn't really deny it because they like the attention, and then they end up doing prison for fucking ever. I have good friends that are still doing a decade or more. So it would be irresponsible for me to get DMs and things like that and tell guys that that's a lifestyle that they should emulate. It's not. It's not a thing that, if you're asking that question, it's not for you. It's for a very specific person. It's for people who have family in that field, or they have a leg up, or they've groomed to that job, that position. That's what they want to do. And they know the risks. A lot of guys think that it's like joining a fucking country club. They can just join and leave and do all of this shit. And there's no consequences. It's not like that. It's not something that you can just decide to be in one day, and then the next week, if something happens or shit gets real, you're just like, nah, I'm out. It's not like that. Like, there's consequences to that sort of shit. So yeah, it's something you have to think about. You know, it's not a. I know that in America and things like that as well, being a trapper or being a fucking, you know, like a thug or all that crap, it's really pushed. Like, it's pushed in the culture. And in Australia, it's similar. Guys think that it's some fucking masculine thing to just, like, even me to a point, like selling drugs. I've been a parasite. You know, I've fucked a lot of people over in Australia. You know, like, I fucked a lot of the general civilians over because I was selling drugs. You know, it's not something that helps people out for the long term, like fucks their life up. So you're essentially assisting the mess. So it's not, there's no shame in doing a normal job. You know, there's no shame in the person who does the normal job is going to overtake 99.9% of guys in those niches because they're going to fuck their whole life up. I've said it before. Selling drugs is like lighting a bomb. Like, you've lit the fuse. You will be caught. I'm not talking about selling nickel bags or fucking bags of weed or bullshit. I'm talking about a guy who actually wants to get rich in that niche, and not rich where you're driving a fucking Commodore. I'm talking about a guy who wants to get rich. I'm a fucking driving a Lambo. I'm rich. I'm talking about me, multi-millionaire. I'm not talking about some fucking dork selling nickel bags and garbage. That's crap. If you're taking the risk like that and you're making fuck all, that's fucking stupid, because you will be punished similarly. Trafficking is trafficking. Yes, there's massive industrial and it can go, but you're still fucked. Like, if you still get done trafficking small amounts, like, you're still doing time. You know, so it would have to be worth it. But, yeah, like I've said, the fuse is lit, the bomb will go off. For you, it might go off, you know, you're walking around, you get stopped with your phone, they go through it, they see something, like, the surveillance is completely different now. For you, it could be you do 2 deals and someone snitches on you. Could be you drop shit off and the person gets arrested around the corner and then just gives you up straight away. The thing with snitching too, it's very hard to get payback. You know, I'd like tamper with a witness, that's a big crime. So if someone's turned against you and you fucking beat the fuck out of them, like, it's difficult there in Australia. They fucking protect witnesses, it's a real thing. It's not like some other countries where they don't really give too much of a fuck. Snitching is not really enabled. Over there it really is. There's a big fucking reason why the protection jail in Woodford now is bigger than the normal jail. Because they've catered to the snitches. They understand if they look after the snitches that they'll be able to get the criminals all of the time. So, yeah, that's my take for today. I know that it's going to be something that's quite different. You know, I'm not going to jump on here and LARP and fucking glamorize a lifestyle that's not good. You know, I'm not going to get on here, and I'm also not a saint that says that's not something that you can't do. But I'm saying that you need to know the risks and the returns. Same goes for selling drugs. You need to think that if it's fucking worth it, because you need to understand that there's a lot of jail time. Like, it's not something that you can just play games with. Like, some of you think that if you get caught, you just give someone up and that there'll be no consequences to that. There are people that if you give them up, they'll fucking kill you. Like, it doesn't mean on the spot. It can be years down the track. You know, there's a lot of people that don't not aware that shit happens. You know, it's part of the fucking lifestyle. You know, I beat the fuck out of a guy that snitched on me. You know, he ended up having to go to the hospital. It's not something that it's just forgiven. If you go to prison as a snitch, people get bashed to death in there before they get to protection because they think that people won't know. People think that if they go to the protection, they're completely safe, but I've heard of people getting bashed in there as well. You know, you're still in with prisoners. Just now the protection jail is so big, there's still conflict. Like, it's not like a place where it's completely safe, it's still prison. And as it gets bigger, the guards will have to do more work, so they'll be more pissed off. So it'll be probably get bad in its own way. So yeah, that's my take on that. And I know that it's going to be different. You know, I know guys like to see guys stand up and be like, oh, fuck the system and do this and do that. I can't say that with a fucking like straight face because that's bullshit. You know, Australia, the laws are fucking hectic. Like, it's not just the laws around the prison and things like that. They've got very strong surveillance laws over there, and they have a lot of surveillance. You know, they take that shit very serious. Like, specifically selling drugs and things like that, there are some big sentences getting slapped down. It's my responsibility to talk about it because I have friends still doing over 10 years. You know, I have a friend that's doing 12 years, and the day he gets out, he'll be deported. He's got kids in Queensland. He won't get to see them because he'll get deported to a country he hasn't lived in, and his girl, I don't know if she'll follow him there because he'll have fucking nothing. And if he gets deported and his kids go with him, that they lose their ticket, I would imagine, to Australia. They can be deported as well. People don't understand that if you're a dual citizen, they can fucking cancel your Australian citizenship. It doesn't matter if you were born there. You know, they can cancel it on character grounds. People don't know fuck all. They just speak crap and all this fucking circumstantial shit. A lot of guys will be doing those sort of crimes and can't even pay a fucking lawyer. Like, they're broke. They don't understand that when they get caught, like, legal fees are very expensive. And if you're relying on the duty lawyer, you're going to get fucked, like, hard. You know, if you've done a crime and then you rely on the state to get you a good attorney like that, it's obvious that they're going to fucking smash you. Like, they're not getting the best attorneys or getting the best outcomes because they're not fighting someone and paying the defender to get you a good outcome. You know, it's obvious that they're going to fuck you over. So some of you, in that sort of a niche, or some of you considering doing that sort of stuff, it's not for you. You know, it's not something that you should emulate. It's not something that you want to fucking do. You know, I've lost a lot of fucking time to that sort of thing. You know, I've done well in some ways, but I've also sat on bail for fucking years. You know, reporting into the police, I had years of bail. I had a year ICO, intensive corrections order, for a year. It's like home detention for 1 year. Then I had a 6-year prison sentence. And then I had fucking parole and this other crap. You know, it's not, so that's probably lost close to a decade. You know, and I would consider myself as having a lucky outcome because I didn't fucking have to do anything. You know, I didn't have to snitch or any of that crap. I stuck to my guns and I still got an okay outcome. I lost 10 years. You know, but that's the game. Like, to think that there's going to be no consequences to that sort of stuff. And I know when you're in the moment, you take drugs, things like that. I was taking blow nearly every day. It doesn't feel like it. It's like your piper will be paid. It almost feels like you're putting off, but eventually it will be paid. And the longer you go on, the bigger the debt will be. The debt can be so big sometimes that there's no way out of it. That's how guys are doing like 15 years, things like that. I was lucky that my whole total offending wasn't 10 years. Because if you cross 10 years, you have to do 80%. It doesn't matter how good your lawyer is and shit like that. I had a lawyer that would go on to become a magistrate. So he was the man. You know, I didn't have a lawyer that was some fucking retard from Logan. You know, so again, you have to think long term. Think if it's the life you want to live. Understand that the guy who's in the slow cart and seems like the boring guy who's working a trade or something like that, the girls don't really notice him as much as the guy who's selling dope and doing things like that. He's living a very short peak. He's got like a year or two of the man, and then he's fucked. It's like he's compressed all of his good experiences, and then there'll be a lot of despair. You know, it's issue. The guy who's the tradie and things like that will eventually overtake him and live a fucking pretty good life and be able to have kids and things like that. It's very hard to have kids in that sort of a lifestyle. Like, it's controversial, it's dramatic, it's dangerous. You know, you have kids or something like that, you have something that someone can hurt now. You know, you have something that means something to you, it's a weak point. Like, it's a thing that, from that sort of a lifestyle, it can be, as much as you love your kid, you got to be careful. You know, it's something that people can attack or use against you or something like that, or something that you're going to miss. The hardest thing about prison, it's not going to prison when you're a bum off the street. I could take a hobo off the street and throw him in prison for fucking 2 or 5 years. It wouldn't really matter as much to him. It's hard when you have shit that you miss. It's hard when you have kids. It's hard if you had a girl that you love and now you're sitting in jail. That's fucking hard. It's not hard when these bums have nothing. You know, these fucking junkies and shit like that, because then they just sit in Suboxone the whole time they're in there. Their life's not that different. Their life already sucks. Like, it consists of just being a dope head, trawling around trying to get dope through the day. So then they just do that in jail instead. So their life's not actually that different. It's hard when you have shit on the outside. It's hard when people love you. It's hard when people care about you. It's hard when you have shit to think about now. It's hard to have hope because now you have anxiety as well. Because you're like, what's my girl doing? What's my kid doing? I feel all of this guilt, like I fucked up. When you've got nothing, like you got nothing to lose, you're just a dope head. It's not that fucking difficult. So I know that, you know, for a lot of the guys in that situation, their life, they're just very selfish. You know, they're only completely focused on themselves. I know guys where they managed to get away or they escaped from the police, and now their fucking kid and ex-wife or like mum and dad get stopped by the police fucking consistently and harassed constantly and fucking raided and shit like that. Because now they've just passed the debt along. They think they're fucking clever because they ran away and they made it away. But the suffering is still being paid. It's just being paid by someone else. Someone else is paying for the shit that they did. The kids and shit are getting harassed by the police. They got a fucking bad name. The cops are fucking raiding the house and scaring the people because they make it difficult so that the person, like, they're still doing damage, and there's still courts and often there's still fines and crap that they try and rope the family into to fuck them over. So to think that the suffering's not being paid, it will be. Like, it's being paid by someone. A lot of those people are fucking cowardly. They're happy to fucking do all this shit and then they just run away and leave someone else to fucking do the time because the time's still being paid, but it's not being paid by them. They just fucking hide and still shooting up and fucking hanging off a pipe, while someone else is doing the suffering. That's the way of the fucking junkies. A lot of them are fucking weak parasites, like a fucking skid mark on society. They act like they're fucking some tough guy hero, but they can't even stay off the fucking drugs. The very concept that an addict is strong, they're not. Most of them, and I've seen a lot of them, they can shoot someone one day because they're high off their fucking brain and then go to prison and cry if they can't get their Suboxone. It's fucking pathetic. Because when they straighten up, they realise that they're a piece of shit and then they can't cope. They can't handle it anymore, so they need to be high again so they can feel like the big man and they're fucking pussies. It's not, I've said it before, it's not a fucking hard thing to shoot someone or kill someone. It's not. Like, it's not that difficult. It's just fucking like this. It's a little bit of pressure, especially if you're not there. When you do it, you just at a distance. It's not fucking hard. It's not shit that really sticks with you that long either. But for those guys, a lot of them could only do it if they're fried. So then they can't really remember it anyway. They're just fucking pillheads. A lot of them are the type that would go shoot someone and then accidentally shoot some fucking family home up. A lot of them are doped out of their head and they just do a drive-by on the wrong house. It's fucking like, it's just amateur hour. It's fucking so dangerous. The drugs are crazy. And then they'll high-five each other and say how fucking cool they are. Just junkies, like skidding up the world. And then the government, police like that, see it and they're like, oh, now's our excuse to clamp down even further. Because if a gangster or anyone kills another gangster, no one gives a fuck. Like, as much as the cops say they care, they don't care. Like, they don't give a fuck. It doesn't matter. They'll only get people for it if they want to. If they want to look more into it or things like that, but they don't really care. Society doesn't care. But it's only when the civilians, like when the stray bullets come out and there's a chance of getting a civilian, as they should. It should always be like player versus player that's actually in the game. It shouldn't be hurting civilians or using them or something like that. Because that's, again, just parasite behaviour. Like, that's not a life that they chose. So, yeah, that's my take. I know that it's a bit different. And it's just, it's more that I get a lot of DMs and things like that of guys say, oh, should I get into that field or should I get into that field? Guys ask me about selling drugs, like what the life is like and things like that. And I'm not going to say that it's all fucking shit, because it's not. It's a thing like anything. It's good when it's good. It's like rolling around in a F-18, but then the missile comes and you're fucking like, you hit the ground very fucking fast. It's not like something that's sustainable, especially now. I was selling drugs when the iPhone was only like an iPhone a few had been out. It was quite new. Most people didn't have one. Most people that I knew anyway, I didn't know people that had money. So now that's completely different. The surveillance and also the tech and things like that have caught up. So yeah, that's my take. And guys, I mean, my take is a fucking multi-millionaire. I live in the fucking anywhere in the world that I want. Go anywhere I want. Understand that, background too, we have issues like getting residencies and passports, things like that. I'm lucky I have a very good connections, but even then I still run into issues. Banking issues, insurance issues, all sorts of shit. But I have very good connections and I have a lot of money. If you don't have that, it's going to be difficult for you. A lot of decisions you make, they roll with you for your whole life in the whole world. It's not just something where I'll just go to another part of the world and people will forget. Everything's online, so you can't get away from it. So you just got to think, lads, again, much like I said, long term. I know that this is very different than what people would expect, but Probably different from what other people say as well about that specific lifestyle. But yeah, that's my take, lads. Till next time.